Hey guys, welcome back to the Lawrenceville Bicentennial Podcast. It's the podcast where we talk to the people that know Lawrenceville best. Today on the show, we're talking all about code enforcement. That's right, the enforcers of the code. Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Lawrenceville. You guys, check this out. You're going to love it. Let's jump right in. Hey guys, welcome back to the Lawrenceville Bicentennial Podcast. It's the podcast where we talk to the people that know Lawrenceville best. And today on the show, we're talking all about code enforcement. We're talking about either you either see that truck coming and you start getting scared. You're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Or you're looking for a hero in your neighborhood, in your city, to kind of come in and help you with some of the issues going on. We're going to talk all about that today, and so happy to have Alan Bannister here to help us talk about that, and Councilwoman Victoria Jones here in the studio. Guys, I just want to talk to you guys for a minute and get your backstory, like how you came to Lawrenceville, and kind of how long you've been in the city and what you've been kind of doing. Alan, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Well, I spent 33 years in law enforcement, and I came to the city in 1998, spent 25 years. This is my 26th year with the city. In 2023, I took a career retirement. After 33 years, it was time to call that to an end. And I was very fortunate that the city was starting the code enforcement department as its own department. And I was able to pretty much just move up the hill to City Hall and take over as a code enforcement manager.
And you were a police officer before, right?
Yes, yeah. I was. I was a police lieutenant with the city of Lawrenceville.
Yeah. Awesome. So you have seen Lawrenceville change tremendously over the years.
Oh, tremendously, especially the last 10 or 12 years, yeah.
All right. How about you, Victoria? How long have you been in Lawrenceville, and how did you become a councilwoman? And just tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. This is so exciting to talk about the city of Lawrenceville and our code enforcement and talk about quality of life for the city.
Yeah.
So I have been part of the Gwinnett community for over 35 years.
Oh, yeah.
So most of that time, I've been here a while.
You've seen it change too.
I worked for Gwinnett County for 26 years. So I've been coming into the city of Lawrenceville a long time.
All right, yeah.
I moved in the city in 2013. And during that time, I just worked with different organizations. I worked with Lawrenceville Neighborhood Alliance and just got to enjoy the city even more by living in the city.
Right, yeah.
So I was part of that organization, and then I was ended up being appointed to the Downtown Development Authority.
Okay, yeah, great.
And the opportunity came to one of the council members was stepping down, and the opportunity came, and I applied for the position, and I was appointed to the council in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
And I was elected in 2020.
Wow. So you guys both have been in the city for such a long time, seen it change over the course of these 30 years, and both had like a retirement of sorts, career change into your new roles now. And so that depth of knowledge probably aids you guys a ton in what you're doing with code enforcement. Maybe give us a little background. What is a good definition for code enforcement?
You want to take that? No, we're good.
Well, I would say that code enforcement is really about having pride in your community. It sounds really harsh, right? Code enforcement.
Oh, I'm scared. Yeah, already.
Right, absolutely. But when you hear Keep America Beautiful, you don't think of it that way.
That's true.
And this is the same thing for the city of Lawrenceville.
Love it.
We're just trying to keep Lawrenceville beautiful, make it a place of pride where people can come and enjoy, bring their families, raise their families.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about when I think about what the city of Lawrenceville is doing and how we look at our code enforcement.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're right. When people hear code enforcement or they see the truck scrolling through their neighborhood or whatever, they're what? Who's in trouble? But as a former police officer now working in code enforcement, maybe talk a little bit about the differences with the way that you guys interact with neighborhoods and people and problems. Like, what do you feel like you're really there to do?
Well, a lot of people don't even know what code enforcement does, or they may have a small idea. I think if you were to go out here and ask 10 people on the street, what does code enforcement do? About 8 of them are going to say they're the guys that tell you to cut the grass.
Oh, yeah, right.
But code enforcement is its own freestanding department within the city government, and we are primarily responsible for enforcing and monitoring the city ordinances that cover your residential and commercial properties. But we also have the responsibility of coordinating and regulate the environmental complaints like our stormwater.
Right, yeah.
When we get a stormwater complaint, we work with our stormwater coordinator, soil and erosion complaints at construction sites and other places. And we also partner in with other departments at the city for business license regulation, alcohol compliance. And we work really close with our building inspectors and our planning and development department to make sure that your building codes and your zoning codes and your permits are pulled. So there's a lot of stuff that we do in code enforcement that a lot of people don't really understand or know.
How'd you get interested in this? Like, was there something that attracted you into code enforcement for you guys?
So I was, like I said, when I came to the city of Lawrenceville, I started just being active in different organizations. And one of the organizations was Lawrenceville Neighborhood Alliance. And it's a community-based organization that works to improve the quality of life for the city of Lawrenceville.
Right.
And that's where my interest became, even more.
Right.
Wanting to get more involved in code enforcement and quality of life, because that's what we did.
Right.
We just pushed, family, community.
Now, not to interrupt, but I just would imagine that it would take like a whole team of people. Like when you think about code enforcement, someone has got to write the code. You guys just enforce it. So I guess, like, were you part of the group that kind of does that?
Well, there were yes, we worked with the city employees, we worked with the city leaders, as being part of the Lawrenceville Neighborhood Alliance. We, talked to them. We had group sessions. We even had small meetings just to say, these are our concerns. And we would lay them out on the table and work to get those things done. It takes everybody to work in that realm of code enforcement. It's not just the city putting down policies, but it's also those organizations like Neighborhood Alliance and Homeowners Association who's come and say, I want my community better. And it takes all of us to do that.
Yeah, it's really like a really good point. It takes so many people. How about you? What was your interest? What got you into code enforcement specifically?
Well, like I said, right before I retired, I had a conversation with the city manager, Chuck Warrington, and he was looking for someone with the background that I had to come over and get code enforcement organized and up and running as its own department. And when I sat down and I talked to him, and he told me about the importance of what they were trying to do in developing the city and the support that the city council had for the development and the support they had for the code enforcement department. And the challenges that we saw as a city really was attractive to me to get in there and really get to work and to see those results we wanted. Because as Victoria said, it takes a lot of cooperation between the city government and the citizens to create an environment where your city is healthy, it's safe, it's growing, and it's a good place the place you want your family to come and move and live, and send your kids to school and work and spend your off time. And there are challenges to that, and I think that the men and women that we have working at the city are all united in making that happen.
Yeah.
I tell a lot of people when I speak at groups that I believe it was Ronald Reagan that talked about the shining city on a hill. Right. Yeah. We're the county seat for Gwinnett County. That's what Lawrenceville should be.
Oh, yeah. Good way to put that, for sure. So what are some of the challenges that you guys face?
You would know that way more.
Well, from a practical standpoint, I think when we look at the big challenges right now, and it's really a social challenges, the homeless encampments. We've run into a lot of those lately, and there's a variety of reasons that people wind up in that situation. Right. And we have to balance the need to try to find the resources for those folks to try to get them back on their feet or in a better condition, while also respecting the rights of the property owner there.
I see.
Because we wind up with a lot of damage in those areas, and ultimately, through no fault of their own, the responsibility for the cleanup of those areas is the property owner. And you can imagine the difficulty of being a property owner that has a piece of land you may want to put a house on one day, and to find out that a homeless camp's cost you $10,000 or $12,000 in damages.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
So that's one of the big challenges, and we've partnered with the police department and their community response team to go out to these camps and try to offer as much assistance as we can to get them in a better condition.
Wow, that really does.
While cleaning up the properties for the property owners.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's not even a problem that would have crossed my mind when talking about code enforcement. I mean, I'm sure like with people, it's just you got to take care of the people. You also got to, take care of the property owners. It's a real tightrope that you guys have to walk on that issue. And it's a far cry different from somebody calling in their neighbor because their grass needs to be cut. So I guess we got to kind of weigh this stuff out, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's a balancing act. And I think that you'll agree with me is that the other thing is just educating people on the ordinances.
Yeah, right.
We have a lot of people moving in. We have a lot of folks that come from other countries, and their customs and their way of living is much different.
Sure.
And so they just don't know that there's an ordinance against some of the stuff. And a big part of our job is just going out and educating them and showing them the ordinances and why it's important and trying to get that voluntary compliance and correction.
Yeah, I guess you guys just are going to field a lot of questions on some of these issues. Like, what are the ordinances? Do people really know what is affecting them in their neighborhood? What do you think, like, some of the frequently asked questions you guys get is? Like, what's one of the problems that you see that you address all the time and you kind of wish you want to get the word out on?
What's the biggest?
I would say if you're going to start any kind of do-it-yourself project, YouTube is a great source for information to teach people how to do projects.
Right.
But we want to make sure that people are doing it correctly. And a lot of these projects require you to come to planning and development and get a permit, get it approved.
Right.
And that way we can go out and inspect the work to make sure it's done properly. Now, we're not trying to cost people extra money, but, there is some safety factors involved. And we have found folks that have built second story decks and things that weren't properly anchored in.
Wow.
And these are actual health hazards.
Yeah.
And dangers. So I would say, if you're not sure if you're going to do a project, find out if you need a permit for it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great one for sure.
And Alan also talked about the fact that people enjoy enclosing their garage.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yes. That's one of the big ones. Folks, they'll buy a home and they obviously need some more room for whatever reason. And one of the easiest ways to create another space is to enclose your carport or your garage. And that's one of the things that we absolutely have to look at for permitting process. Unfortunately, we find that those are already completed a lot of times, and so there's some steps that we have to get the homeowners to back up, back up and punt on this, and either get it inspected and get it permitted, and if they can't get it approved, they'll have to actually reverse the process.
That's expensive.
And that can get expensive.
It's costly. It can be costly.
Well, I mean, you kind of hit me a little bit between the eyes on this one because I am actually I'm not enclosing my garage, but I am using the space for game room, place to hang out for the kids in the neighborhood, stuff like that. I mean, everything you could kind of take out and move, but still, if the thought was to cross my brain to enclose my garage, calling code enforcement, probably not on my list of things to do. So it's really good that if you're thinking about a project like that we kind of discuss that.
Well, that's, and that's another thing, another big issue that we see is with parking. And in the city, if the new houses have to have a garage.
Right.
And some of the older neighborhoods have carports, single car carports or garages.
Sure.
And we find that a lot of people today use that as their own storage areas.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And because of that, you wind up having more than the allotted amount of cars
in the driveway. Yeah.
And they're forced to park on the street, and that causes the whole.
And that's also an ordinance Oh, wow. Very interesting.
So we encourage people to turn those garages back into a garage for their cars, and that helps eliminate a lot of problems.
Right. I mean, good reminder for folks, yes, the garage are made for parking. Don't park too many cars in your driveway. Didn't really think about that one. So that's a good one to know. And just good to know, like, if you're thinking about building a project, that project might have to come down unless you go ahead and get ahead of the issue and call in code enforcement to help walk you through it. They're there to help you through the projects like this. Now let's talk about some other ordinances that are affecting people. Not everybody lives in a neighborhood with a garage that they can convert or a room that they can expand. Sometimes we're living in this multifamily situation. Kind of want to talk about that multifamily ordinance. Victoria, can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Well, the multifamily ordinance was approved in January by the city council.
Okay.
And what that is it allows a third party to come in and do an inspection on multifamily buildings. And then they also have to report that information to is it planning or is it?
It's both code enforcement or planning and development.
Yes, so they have to report that information to code enforcement or planning.
I see.
So that multifamily owner is responsible for getting those inspections.
I see.
So, this is one thing that, like I said, the city council approved that ordinance in January, and other cities are doing this as well. But what got us here is the fact that the quality of life was declining in our multifamily units. And with people, having issues of mold and, electrical, all those issues come up, and not having a recourse to get those resolved sometimes has led us to this. This was not arbitrarily created. It was created because there was a situation that had to be resolved.
I see, yeah. Problems that continue to come up in certain types of, we got all these different kinds of residencies. So I guess just for folks, can you define what multifamily is? Is that all just, is it apartments?
Well, I wanted to say apartments, but people don't say apartments. They say multifamily, which is several units.
Sure, yeah.
Several units.
Anytime you got several units together, there's also, I guess, duplexes. There's also, there's a lot of different kinds of things,
duplexes with the two, but those are not involved in this
okay.
ordinance. This is
apartments.
Right, more so apartments
gotcha.
than anything.
I
and
see.
You can correct me.
That's right.
Yeah.
The multifamily ordinance covers developments that have 4 units or more.
Okay, I got you.
And that they're required to have, and those that have an office here in the city. And basically, you're going to be your larger apartment complexes. And what, as Victoria said, what started this is that we have some great apartment complexes.
Sure.
Great landlords, great companies that manage these properties, and that I would recommend anybody to come and move into. But people being people, that's not always the case every time.
Right.
And we do have some properties that had fallen below what we would consider a minimum standard of care. And we found that we had some families living in some conditions that weren't favorable. So the multifamily ordinance gives us an opportunity to be proactive in the approach to making sure that there's a standard of care in these apartment complexes. And the property owner has to contact a third-party inspector. They go out and they'll inspect a portion of those apartment complexes to make sure that they're in line with the International Property Maintenance Codes.
Yeah.
And that makes sure that they have water and heat and everything's working right. The pest elimination, that was a big one,
Right.
Get rid of the rats and the roaches.
Yeah.
Make sure that the water's clean, the toilets work, and have a decent place to live. I think when I gave the presentation afterwards, I was talking with some of the council people, and the movie It's a Wonderful Life kept coming up in my head. And There's a wonderful scene with Jimmy Stewart when he's having an argument with Old Man Potter.
Yeah.
You've never seen the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, that the people that live and pay in this town, they're the ones out there getting it done. And it is too much to ask that they have a clean place to come home to and live.
Yes.
And I don't think that's asking too much.
No, not at all. This is a great way that Lawrenceville can ensure that, this is a beautiful city and just kind of keep everything great for everyone who lives here. Well, let's also talk a little bit about, when these issues come up, a lot of times it's happening full transparency online. There's forums, there's a dashboard there. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that dashboard and how the city operates under this transparency.
Well, like you said, transparency and operation in government right now is very important. And one of the things we have in place that is a portal and a dashboard where people can make complaints for code enforcement violations, but they can also monitor where those complaints are going. You can get online right now and you can look at the dashboard and you can pick out the individual cases, show where we're at in the process, find out those numbers that are in court, find out how we've resolved them.
I see.
And so the citizens can look and say, yeah, we know we're out there getting it done. That's one of the main things.
Yeah, that's great.
And one thing that's really good about reporting in that portal is you can do it anonymously.
I see.
So you don't have to put your information, your personal information. It's a choice.
Right.
So, that's a great way to say it's okay to report this, even if you don't want us to know who you are.
Right. Great to know, because, sometimes people want to go on there and they want to report something in their neighborhood that's happening and it's like a real problem, but, they don't want to reveal that they're the tattletale, right?
And I like to tell people that we understand that.
Yeah.
But I also want them to know that city policy forbids us to give out that information.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to leave your name, you by all means do. It will never leave the code enforcement officer. It's not.
I see.
And if you're not quite sure, I would encourage you to at least leave a phone number or an email.
Mm-hmm. Just
so that way we can have if we have some clarifying questions about the complaint, or we can't find it, or if there's something that we're not reading in the complaint. It's just a point of contact for us to get those clarifying information.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Right. Now with some of these changes, like the actual department, the code enforcement department, originally it was part of planning and development, right? You talked about that before, but becoming your own department, what are some of the changes, developments? You guys have done some things with your branding, with your trucks, like it's really kind of become its own identity in the city.
Well, let me just say I'm so proud of our code enforcement department. Alan came in and we're making great strides. We just got the ordinance approved for the multifamily inspection.
Mm-hmm.
So we are doing a lot of great things, and also we're doing the community cleanups, which have been ramped up when Alan came on board.
I see. Yeah, it's cool.
So we're so pleased with what our departments are doing.
Yeah, it's keeping the city beautiful, as you said.
Well, when I took over, I noticed right away there was some places we could improve, and I brought a lot of techniques and ideas that we used at the police department over to code enforcement.
Right.
And one of them is just being identifiable. And I tell people, if, say for instance, you're driving down the road and you're driving the speed limit, but you see a police officer, what do you instinctively do?
Right. Yeah.
You normally step on the brake, slow down, make sure you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And so that theory, we brought that over to code enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
When I took over, we were driving standard city trucks, and there wasn't a standard uniform for the code enforcement officer to wear. And I knew right away that was hampering our ability to be seen in the neighborhood. And that was very important for citizens would call up and they would say, I never see code enforcement. Well, we were out there. Well, you just didn't see us.
Mm-hmm.
So like we said, we went to communications. We got the branding standards. We changed the look of the trucks. They're now readily identifiable. I'm wearing the standard uniform that all of our code enforcement officers wear.
Great.
I want those guys and the men and women to get out of those trucks. And if you look out your window or look through your Ring camera, you're going to see a code enforcement somewhere, either on the uniform or the trucks, and you know why we're there.
Right. Yeah.
And like you said earlier, you have two types of people in your neighborhood. Yeah. The one that love us because they know we're going to see the guy that's got the problem down the street.
Right.
And then the guy down the street is going to see us and say, I need to get the lawnmower out.
Yeah, maybe I ought to just fix this before I get.
Yeah. So we've made a lot of positive changes like that I think really helped us in getting the message out.
Yeah, for sure. Before we kind of close, like, how do we find out what all these ordinances are that we should be following, and how do we know more about code enforcement? Is there like a website, something we can do online?
Absolutely. You can go online and look at those code of ordinance. In fact, all of our ordinances are out there online. But there's also on the Lawrenceville website is a section for code enforcement as well.
All right.
Just come to the website, the city website, look under departments. You'll find all the departments there. Click on code enforcement. And once you come to the code enforcement page, we have information there already that covers some of the ordinances. and the requirements, but then you can look deeper into those. There's some links there for you.
Well, let's maybe conclude our conversation by talking about a few of the success stories. Like what are some of the things like when you're talking about cleaning up the neighborhood,
the neighborhood cleanup,
neighborhood cleanups, right. What are some of the success stories like that you guys can share?
The neighborhood cleanups are popular, and I've had people to ask, can you come to my neighborhood and clean up? And so basically, the city will bring out a big dumpster.
Oh, that's awesome.
Whatever you have, you put it in there.
That's amazing.
There are no limits.
Do you know how many dumpsters I've rented? That's amazing the city does that for people. Really, that's pretty awesome.
Do that for free. And
so
I
cool.
know in the past we've put door hangers out there. We do a great big campaign to let people know, hey, the city's coming. So bring whatever. And you'd be surprised. Furniture, the works.
Yeah.
Yeah, the neighborhood cleanups have been really popular, and we've taken some extra steps in code enforcement, not only in our day-to-day operations, but for the cleanups. We've had some of our documents made in Spanish as well as English, and we distribute those out as we need them. So
it's important.
It's helps to get the message across.
Sure.
We did 4 neighborhood cleanups last year in some of our struggling areas, and we go out the week before and distribute flyers and the yard sign saying this weekend is when the cleanup's going to come. And we work hand in hand with our street department. We couldn't get any of this done if it wasn't for our street sanitation guys. Those guys are top notch.
Yeah.
And they really help us out. But just in the 4 cleanups we had, we removed over 81 tons of debris from those neighborhoods.
That's amazing.
81 tons.
Wow. I mean, that's an amazing service that you guys do for neighborhoods and people, and they come out and they can kind of do this thing together as a neighborhood. Kind of brings everybody together in some way. And really, when things start to accumulate in a neighborhood, it kind of prevents fires. I mean, you guys are saving lives in some ways with this. And I mean, it just keeps our neighborhoods beautiful. So it's pretty awesome.
Well, we want to spark and encourage that growth and that development. And I tell folks when I speak at the neighborhood associations that there are struggling neighborhoods in our town. It used to be the nice, bright, new neighborhoods at one point, but for whatever reason they've fallen on hard times.
Sure.
Whatever. And it gives us an opportunity to get that spark to return the dignity and the respect to those neighborhoods that those folks used to have. And those community cleanups, I think, go a long way of getting that started.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's an amazing way to bring the community together because everybody's doing this at the same time. And just the fact that the city gives neighborhoods an opportunity to do this just allows them, a moment to see their neighbors in a different way. Because sometimes in this day and age, you don't really even talk to your neighbors too much. So this is like a really cool opportunity to get everybody working together, and it's really cool that that's a part of code enforcement that kind of helps the community directly on a day-to-day basis.
And we encourage people to call if they have a problem.
Right.
With one of the community cleanups is a great story, and I'll give all the credit to the employee of the street department. We were in the midst of one of those cleanups, and we got a telephone call from a couple that lived in this neighborhood. They were in their 90s.
Oh, wow.
And they had some stuff that they couldn't physically pick up and carry. And they called us, and we called the street department, and they sent guys over there.
Wow.
And was able to assist them, to help them get those things cleaned up and moved. And, if there's something you need help with, if there's a reason that you need some assistance, call. We've got resources available for folks. If it's financial or if you have a physical disability that you can't get some of these things, call us.
Man, that's amazing.
Ready to help you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just so great.
And even just take it a step further, not only just with the cleanups, but even with the code enforcement, when you go out, Alan, and your staff go out and give citations, and you have people that have issues, they're unable to get grass cut or whatever the situation is, you talk to code enforcement. There are some programs out there that can help our citizens.
I see. So if you need any help at all, just make sure you contact anyone. Guys, thank you so much for being here, and this has been an awesome conversation. Make sure that you reach back out to the city should you need any help or assistance with anything related to code enforcement, anything related to your neighborhood, anything like that. Anything that you guys want to add?
Just, well, what we just said. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Right.
If something comes up, call the city and let us know what's going on.
Right.
Alan and his staff, they're there. Yes, code enforcement is huge. We want Lawrenceville to stay beautiful, but if you are having a challenge, definitely reach out.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
I would say just call us, talk to us.
Yeah.
We don't want it to be an adversarial relationship.
Yeah.
Too often that's how it's viewed. If I don't cut my grass, code enforcement's going to come give me a ticket. No, we're there to work with you. We give people plenty of time. We try to give them the resources available if they have some problems or point them in the right direction.
Sure.
And we really want to partner with them to make sure that we can get whatever the problem is corrected. And that, ultimately, if we can do that as a city,
Right.
think of the work we can get done.
Right. Well, I just think it's so cool that we got to talk about this. It's not something you get to talk about every day with code enforcement, and it's so awesome that the city has all these opportunities to help its neighbors, its citizens, its people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. It's in the top right of most podcast players. Also, you can subscribe to the city's YouTube page. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys for being here. And until next time, you guys have a good one.